Hi, I'm Tara Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment, and welcome to Dunk and Egg Tales. Woo! This podcast series covers episode by episode with myself, an avid reader of all things ASWAF, and my amazing co-host, Manny, a Game of Thrones fan who is unsullied, aka has never read the books, being your stalwart hosts. So first things first, you can find me on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at A Geek Saga.
And I'm Manny, the aforementioned unsullied co-host, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Manissimo Art. Thanks for joining us for this episode, which will cover Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Season 1, Episode 2, titled Hard Salt Beef.
As a reminder, expect spoilers from the episode we're covering, but less obvious, there will be very minimal book spoilers from the Night of the Seven Kingdoms novella collection, which is, of course, the source material for this show, but only up to and including what has happened in aired episodes of the show. We will kick off with our episode summary, then get into our tallest tales, aka our hot takes from the episode, followed by our favorites roundup featuring our personal favorite things. After that, we will close out by touching on Maester Manny's predictions about what might come next.
We also have a rating system that we will, as in our Hot D Takes series, fill in when and where we please. And that system includes rating things on a scale of 1 to 10 dunk eggs.
Just one last piece of business before we dig in. Don't forget that Geek Saga Entertainment has a Patreon with 10 tiers ranging from $1 a month to $40 a month. It offers tons of ways to support us and receive some great perks in return, including immediate access to these Dunk and Egg Tales live streams, slightly delayed access at the lower tiers at the $3 a month and up tier to the recording of the live stream, and then also early access to the audio-only podcast episodes. Check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And now it's time for the tall and the bald of it, our very brief for this series episode summary. They really start off these episodes with a bang so far because, wow, what was that prosthetic this guy was wearing, dude? Now I'm just kind of curious what's going to be in the third episode now. Now it's okay, let's see how they're going to beat that last one now, you know?
Yeah, that was one heck of a prosthetic. But hey, Manny, we did get more of that backstory you requested in last week's episode, and yes, at least Sir Arlen seems a lot nicer in these flashbacks. Interesting choice after they made him seem like pretty much an abusive ass in the premiere. And there are those important Westerosi arrivals that you sort of predicted to boot.
Yes, I like to pat myself on the back on that one. I knew they would do something to remind everybody that this is a Game of Thrones show. That said, rude Targ Princeling is rude as fuck. Reminds me of that asshole. What was it? Daenerys' brother or whatever, you know? Viserys, there you go. That guy.
Dany's Viserys, not our king.
Yeah, not our king. No, definitely not. But, at least the two Kingsguards nice that he met were kind of nice.
Maybe sort of made up for little Aryan a little bit there.
Yeah, nice. A little bit there.
Anyway, maybe Dunk shouldn't have been dropping eaves on some Targaryens of all people, and his bravery might be matched by his stupidity in asking Baelor freaking Targaryen to vouch for him, of all people. Again, of all people, but how much shit can we really talk when it sure worked out well for him?
The problem is Dunk has to find a sigil of his own, but all it takes is him and Egg doing a little workshopping after Tansel Too Tall noting that his current shield is pretty drab. After hearing what they come up with, we can't wait to finally see the finished product on screen.
We continue to get seemingly random and unnecessary interaction between Dunk and Lionel Baratheon, but at the same time, the tug of war scene was fun and really cute in the end, and it's hard not to love, or at least start to love, how much Lionel is a real character.
Yes, he is a character for sure. We don't love Dunk having to sell his horse though, even if the armor Steely Pate seems to be pretty legit and possibly giving Dunk a damn good deal on armor that will hopefully be as good as its maker's claims. Yeah, I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of sad.
Yeah, it was. But however, even after watching Dunk say goodbye to one of his clearly beloved horses, it was impossible to not feel that tourney hype. Dunk might have felt the hype a little too much though, because not our boy having a full-on panic attack when he sees what he is going to be up against.
And then, a bit of confusion here, because now it seems as if Dunk was sprinkling quite a bit of sugar on the stories he was telling about Sir Arlen earlier in the episode, and now he claims he was a hard hard man to know. Except Dunk also says that Sir Arlen was good to him and raised him to be an honorable knight, and even despite his earlier palatable anxiety, Dunk states that he is Sir Arlen's legacy.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's not giving up just yet, and hopefully not at all, so let's go!
Yes, Tallest Tale number 1, Sir Duncan the Tall has officially entered the list, y'all. Seriously though, that was some validation he got from a prince, no less. I felt like the scene was nice because they kind of treated him halfway with respect when they probably shouldn't have, because he's kind of a nobody, but they actually did pretty good, that, but aside from the guy's asshole brother or whatever.
I mean, honestly, even Maekar wasn't being that bad. He was being a dick, but I mean, he's a Targaryen. He could have been a lot worse, honestly. And it more felt like he was just in a bad mood because, he's lost his sons and shit. Than it was like, I'm sure, yes, he looks down on Dunk for being, like he said, kind of a nobody, or well, not kind of, a total nobody, but he could have been a lot nastier. He could have been like, who is this idiot in our chambers? Cut off his head.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we Targaryens do have that streak in them, so I also just generally got to give props to Dunk for being so brave, even if he was just kind of lurking and maybe only finally went into the room to talk to them because he was caught. Like, they're freaking Targaryens, man. Could we possibly say Sir Arlen wasn't lacking in the knighthood department? But hey, Dunk certainly isn't lacking in balls.
Nope. No wonder they made a good team.
And also, it's just Baelor, like, remembering Sir Arlen was great. Some hedge knight who didn't even beat him, but broke 4 lances against him. That's not nothing, honestly, in a tournament. So that's a good reason to remember somebody, but still, he's a Targaryen. You saw Maekar being like, how the fuck did you remember this nobody?
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, Tallest Tale number 2, the most adorbs banter that ever was. AKA basically every conversation between Dunk and Egg in this episode. Their relationship is really starting to come into its own and really shine very quickly. What's great about how it's being shown is that it doesn't feel forced at all. I don't feel like it's rushed. Yes, it is. Like I said, the relationship is starting to come into its own. It's happening very fast, but it does not feel too fast or forced. Also, like, for real though, Egg in general was just really awesome in this episode. He was really good with the pickup when they were talking to Tansel. Also, I don't know about you, but I just love his mannerisms, honestly. They're very preteen. Like when Doug says the thing about like, what do I owe you telling you what I said when people called me stupid, and Egg's just like, like we're having a conversation here. It's very like put upon preteen. I mean, you have more experience with that than I do, but
no, but that's really good. Again, this isn't even so much good writing as much as it's good chemistry amongst those two actors.
Yeah.
You can tell that there's like a chemistry there, that they know how to talk to each other, which again just makes it feel so natural. It's nice to see that. They did a really good job just 2 episodes in, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, these two, it just makes a lot of sense with them. So I thought that was really great. But all the banter and just the way they are with each other, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, just great.
Even not just the banter, the little things like when they win the tug of war and Dunk tosses him up in the air, and when they're at the tourney and Dunk is like rushing to see the first joust and Egg is like rushing behind him and can't keep up, and he's like, sir, and Dunk picks him up, puts him on his shoulders, but then when he wants to get down, Dunk is like, oh, all right. I mean, you won't be able to see much, but sure. It's just all it's very cute. It feels very big brother, little brother in a good way.
Does. Yeah, it definitely does.
Even though Dunk is technically his boss.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, Dunk just did like one of those Make-A-Wish, charity things. And he's like, sure, I'll take the little patient. I'll show him some tournaments and some horses.
My first job as an actual manager, it was actually at Disney, and I was 23, I think. I had a lot of cast members, well, plenty who were older than me, but I had a lot of the college program cast members, which is how I got started at Disney, who were 21, 22. They were in their senior year or had just graduated college and were doing the college program. It reminds me a little bit of that. It's like he's supposed to be his boss. And of course, they're Dunk and Egg are a little bit farther apart in age than that. But like I said, it feels more like a sibling relationship than it does boss and employee.
Exactly. Well, and just because how like Dunk's like character is also. Dunk's not going to treat Egg like
No.
an employee, you know what I'm saying? So that's just with his character, you know, like
he loves to threaten the clouts and on the ear and
Mm-hmm.
the sending dogs after the kid, but you know that yes, of course he doesn't have the dogs, but I don't know that he'd really even, maybe if Egg actually stole all of his shit or his
Yeah.
horses or something, but I think he also knows Egg wouldn't do that, which is why it's so cute.
Yeah, it's cute. Exactly. Exactly. All right. Tallest tale number 3. What a start to this tourney. Like you said in the summary, man. Hype, 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 dude. They did a good job in this. Yeah, dude. Everybody jousting at one time. It's like, fuck this one at a time shit. We're just going to do them all at one time. Let's get it over with. Good shit, man. Good shit.
Well, and it kind of, that particularly, now I will say, like, we might agree with Egg that the fish thing was disgusting and therefore unnecessary. The Tully that's just like, "Argh." Overall, though, really zero complaints. I also feel like what this is, the one-on-one jousting feels like those are like the championship jousting, right? This is, it's almost less jousting, and it's not a melee in the technical sense of the term or the literal sense of the term, but it sure as hell felt like that at times when they're riding back and forth so close to each other and people who aren't even up against each other are falling off their horses and their horses are crashing into each other. They're not the people who are riding against each other, but they're in the list together in a way. So it just had that sort of, let's get all these losers out of the way, even though one of them was a friggin' Targaryen. And I mean, also like most of them they were higher lords, really, the Tullys and everything. So it was interesting that they portrayed it this way with those particular lords. I'll be honest, I mentioned this in our first episode. It's been a few years since I fully read The Hedge Knight or any of the novellas from Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but so I don't remember. Maybe it threw me off a little bit because it happened at night, and for sure in the book it doesn't happen at night. And I say that and I'm like, wait a minute, am I for sure? Somebody's gonna correct me, but I'm like fairly certain nothing happens at night. So like when the doo went off and they went running, I thought that they were running to another Tansel Too Tall play or whatever. I didn't think they were going right into the, it's nighttime. They're all sitting around drinking their ale. This doesn't seem like but also it was cool to have it at night, if you ask me.
It was
I don't know. It was well staged. The stunt actors that must have been doing that shit, the horses they were, using for I'm entirely certain a lot of it was the horse stuff where they were actually looking like they were getting injured. That wasn't real. That wasn't happening. But the horses that weren't getting hurt, those were real. Like there's a lot of awesome stunt acting, horseback riders, especially. My God, that one guy that like, I hope that was real. It didn't look CGI to me. The one guy that gets up on the horse and like, he's like swipes stuff up off the, oh man, it looked so fucking good. And I know we've seen stuff like this in movies and shit before, but I think it was just because they downplayed the tournament so much. Well, for sure in Game of Thrones, the one was so bleh. And the House of the Dragon, that tournament in season 1 was good, but this already is snaps.
No, it's like way better because first off, maybe it wouldn't have happened at night, but I love the fact that it did. It seemed very just kind of off the cuff and very fun and not too like ceremonial and stuff. It was just more like, all right, guys, grab your joust. We're going to go fuck shit up. It just, I don't know. There was something so much more fun about this than any of the other, even with like House of the Dragon, like House of the Dragon's like, oh, you got 2 people. It's very like, ooh, to me, that was like watching tennis. This was more like you're just watching football at this point. Like, oh man. So I think they did a great job, and doing it at night gave it like more of like a celebratory kind of like thing. Everyone's getting drunk. Everyone's yelling obscenities to the lords and stuff.
It was really good. It was really good. I'm interested to see how the rest of this tournament plays out for sure. Because, and too, like with House of the Dragon, with Game of Thrones, they had so much more that they had to work with. And I say that they had to, like the CGI dragons, like they were spending money on stuff like that. That's fine. That's good. It worked for those shows. For this is clearly what they're spending money on. Kudos so far. And please, I really hope it continues on this level. I imagine it's going to, especially with only 6 episodes. I think they'd be hard pressed to really fuck it up. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to get into our favorites roundup?
For mine, pretty basic here, but the flashbacks, obviously. I loved them showing just a different side to Sir Arlen, which was nice, which I kind of assumed also. I assumed they were going to go this route of like, oh, they're going to show a gentler side, or at least a more like wacky old man side to him, which that's really probably more what it was. But it was nice to like see that Dunk wasn't just some like abused child, just he loved him. And Sir Arlen clearly loved him too. I really did like that.
Yeah, the scene of them eating the hard salt beef under the tree and it's raining and they're laughing together. It
They're
was like,
laughing.
oh, I don't know if that was meant to be like a thing that happened like really right before Sir Arlen died. I think it might have been. Could be wrong about that. I wasn't sure about the timeline because when I watched it the first time, I was like, wait a minute. It seemed like the flashbacks were just kind of all over the place. That's okay. Like I have no complaints about that. But then I realized when I watched it the second time, I had missed that he pulls that bandage back and he's got that nasty wrong arm. I'm holding up my wrong arm, but holding up the right arm literally now. He's got that nasty cut, on his right arm. It was like after that, I don't think they were jumping back and forth. I think, well, minus there was the clip where they're fighting, like Sir Arlen's teaching him how to fight. I'm pretty sure that was like a farther back flashback, but I kind of want to believe that them sitting under the tree in the rain, laughing and eating the hard salt beef, that was the evening before he passed and they were having a good time together. Like, I want to believe that. So listen, that's what I'm going to fucking believe.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, second thing, the Targaryen entrance. They just got to show everybody up, man. Everybody get out of the way for the Targaryens, man. Here we go, like waving their flags and all that shit. But again, as predicted, something was going to show up that was going to remind everybody that this is still a Game of Thrones show. I did like the armor that they were wearing, the guy, the helmet that the jousting Targaryen dude was doing. Like, I thought that was cool. It wasn't as fancy as Daemon's, but I guess times change. You got to cut a little corner sometimes, go with something a little more sleeker and thinner.
I also feel like Daemon is a little bit more extra, maybe.
Yeah, Daemon is a little more extra.
I'm not going to say one thing or another about whether Valar is that way at all, but I see Daemon in that ridiculous helmet, and it seems a lot more appropriate for especially this type of joust.
Yeah,
that he wasn't wearing something that somebody's lance could just be like, bloop.
Exactly. Also, the interactions with Egg and Dunk, like we spoke about, the bond that they're building here, it's really great, how Dunk kind of gets his butt saved in conversation by Egg, and he's like, oh, you're as tall, perfect for, and then he just kind of freezes, and then Egg has to jump in and like save his ass. I was like, nice.
He's like a little high pitched. I'm a little bit surprised Dunk hasn't kind of side-eyed how well spoken Egg is yet. But
another thing I liked is that I'm curious what they're going to do with that, because Egg clearly did not want to be around when the Targaryens came around for some reason. There was like a look, and he was just like, I'll go. Yeah, I'm going to go do the horses for you now. All of a sudden, I'm curious about that. But I do
he wanted to make sure that nobody was poking through their stuff under their tree, which seems to be kind of far away from where everybody is.
Yeah.
But you're right. He didn't want to be there.
He didn't want to be there for some reason. So I'm kind of curious as to what that was about. But I did like how it was done very subtly. Oh, I'm going to go do this. And I'm like, okay. Something's clearly there, going on there.
Well, you mentioned armor a little bit. So for me, my first favorite thing was I love this version of the Kingsguard armor. It appears to be the most book accurate by far so far. Game of Thrones was not really at all. Also that's not even a complaint because I've liked the Kingsguard armor kind of overall. I did like the Game of Thrones. A lot of people complained about it. Oh, there's too much gold, whatever. But also you got to remember, like, this is the Baratheon Kingsguard and the Lannister Kingsguard, really, not the Targaryen Kingsguard. So it would make sense that Robert would kind of buck that tradition. But this one, it was so white. Even after they had just come off the road, it's like those guys had to have polished that shit that morning. They got to be polishing that shit every morning. And like the 7-pointed star on the front, it's simple but like beautiful in its simplicity. I'm like really liking it. I hated Dunk having to sell Sweetfoot, which is the name of the white mare, the palfrey that he has to sell. But I did love that he made sure to toss back some coin for her to have oats and an apple that night, and like a good rub down, like basically like spoil my baby that I'm having to sell off so that I can even be in this tournament. And of course, he promises she's a horse. Horses understand a lot, particularly emotion, obviously certain words and everything. But that horse had to, if this was real life, she would have understood that he was sad and didn't want to have to do this. And I don't know, horses are one of those things, they're a little bit different because especially as a horse girl, it's been a long time since I've had horses of my own, but sometimes you have to sell them and it's not, you outgrow them as a rider. My family has also gifted horses into retirement to people that we knew well and knew would take care of them. And we kept in touch with those people and heard about those horses for years until they passed and stuff like that. The horse not the person. We
Yeah.
we had one horse that was very, very elderly when my family moved from Connecticut to South Carolina, and they were like, he's too old to make the trip. And so they gifted him to some family friends who had horses, had, you know, a little barn of their own and everything. And that horse lived for like 7 more years. He was close to 40 when he passed. He was the cutest little Arabian. I used to take him galloping around the farm when I was a teenager. Oh man, watching this show is making me miss being around horses so much already. And we're only 2 episodes in. But so anyway, Dunk, I loved also that he promised to buy Sweetfoot back if he, you know, wins and everything. So like fingers crossed. And also this whole scene was straight from the book. And I love that it made it in basically word for word, because if not, that situation of him having to sell Sweetfoot would have been so much harder to handle. I'm pretty sure at the beginning I say we do the predictions first, but I feel like ratings makes more sense. So, Manny, what would you give this on a scale of 1 to 10? Dunk eggs.
I would give it a 7 out of 10, because it was cool that they had the jousting. It was cool that they, you know, like the tournament starting. It was cool, like with the horse and all that stuff. My only complaint is that this is one of those situations where I'm like, I wish these episodes were longer, because really the 30 minutes. But I will say this though, at least they're not rushing through anything, right? You figure if you had 30 minutes that they would try to smash like an hour's worth of material into a 30-minute episode, and they're really not doing that.
No.
So I can't like crap on it too much, but they could have made this a 3-episode, 1 hour kind of thing, or 4-hour thing, whatever. Like I think that they could have done that and kind of kept us going. But I will say I do kind of appreciate the pacing for a 30-minute episode, number one. And the fact that there's not even enough going on to really kind of keep your mind wondering or like trying to like break it apart until next week's episode. You know, it's just pretty basic, but they still do it really good. That's the only reason I'd give it a 7 out of 10 is I just wish it was longer is what it is.
Yeah. This is hard for me. I'm going to rate it higher than you. I think I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. And even that is like, I really can't think of anything that I didn't like at all. I liked that we got the more positive backstory about Sir Arlen. You know, the horse thing sure was sad, but again, that scene is straight from the book. Yeah, he paid to have the horse taken care of. You know, hopefully the stable boy does do the things. We're just going to pretend that he does. Okay. We're going to assume that he's going to do it. The beginning of the tourney, that clash, that was great. You know, and one thing we didn't really talk about too much, even though we mentioned it a little bit in the summary, Dunk kind of having a little bit of a panic attack while they're watching it. It's like, yeah, it's exciting and he's excited, but he's also like, wait a minute. Holy shit, what did I get myself into? Watching it the first time, I wasn't quite sure what he was supposed to be feeling there or what was going to happen from it. And then he's back with Egg, and Egg is just playing around with his little pokey stick. Very Arya, by the way. I loved that. It was very Arya core, which I know is like, I know Arya is so far in the future from this, but we're calling it Arya core.
Yeah, Arya core for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But Egg like notices that he's upset, and when Dunk first starts talking, you think like, oh my God, you know, he sounds so down on himself. But then at the end, he's like, I'm his legacy. And with that line, you know that he has just like cemented himself into this like role of I've got to do everything I can to make sure people, if they remember me, maybe they'll remember him. Yep. I think is sort of what he was thinking. And I really, really liked that. So I don't really like, listen, did I need to see Sir Arlen's giant dong at the beginning? No, that is ridiculous. Yep. What is this, Dirk Diggler, Ron Jeremy? Like, I don't want to see that, and I'm not a prude or anything, but like, I don't necessarily, I didn't want to see Dunk shitting in the first episode either. I'm not hating on it, but like you said, you know, earlier, I'm very interested and maybe a little frightened to see what they do at the beginning of the rest of these episodes. Are they going to keep this up? Can they keep this up? Like, how could they keep this up? I don't know.
Yeah. I just feel like I'm just like, just going down a dangerous path here where I'm like, I see what you guys are doing and we still have 4 episodes left. So what is going to be next, and how traumatized am I going to be about these openings by the time this show is over?
Maester Manny's predictions. What dost thou predict, sir?
I predict that in the next episode, Dunk is finally going to go toe-to-toe with someone and get someone's attention, right? And then it's going to be kind of like a tug-of-war thing to where either the Targs or somebody else, and he's going to have to choose between who's he's buddies with. What clique is he part of? Is it going to be part of the Baratheons, or is he going to be part of, and really just Lionel Baratheon? Is he going to be hanging out with Lionel Baratheon or somebody else? You know, I feel like something like that is going to happen.
I think Dunk is going to end up having to hang out with Lionel Baratheon whether or not he wants to, because Lionel just keeps like dragging him into things. I feel like Lionel is like the fucking extrovert friend who is just like,
Yep.
"Hey, hello, introvert. I am your emotional support. I am your fun support extrovert.
Yep.
Come along with me for the ride." And so far, Dunk seems to be loving it. You know, he had a blast at that party last week. He seemed to have a lot of fun being the anchor in Tug of War. All right. So we're going to, next episode, you think Dunk is going to go toe to toe with someone and get some more attention? And
get some more attention.
Have to pick a clique?
He's going to have to pick a clique. I think once he shows his prowess, then I think the people will start paying attention to him in a different way, you know, and be like, oh, well, wait a minute. Lionel's going to be like, well, he was my friend from the beginning.
And it's almost like, how much prowess do you think he even has to have? Because everybody's already like, whoa, you're gigantic.
But it's like that
was
thing,
it the
right?
Crakehall? The Crakehall Kingsguard, who was pretty tall, and the Darkland from Duskendale, that guy, he was like, yeah, he's just not used to having to look up to people or look up at people.
Yeah. I just think it's gonna be one of those things like when you're in high school and there's like the tallest person there and everybody wants to fight them because they just come off as like whatever. They want to see what they can do. So that's, I think, is what's happening here.
All right. Any last thoughts?
It's hard to find. I will say about these 30-minute episodes, it's difficult to find. The entire episode would have to be bad for me to point out something bad in it. You know what I'm saying? Because there just isn't enough time to like really, I don't know, dwell on some of the stuff that's happened. This is literally like, you know, House of Dragon was like doing a line of coke. This is like you're going into the bathroom and you're doing a bump real quick to go hang out with your friends and keep dancing like real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like there isn't enough time to know whether what you got was like good quality or not, right? You're unsure at this point. And that's how I feel about it. I mean, I feel like it's good quality clearly because I'm definitely enjoying the show, but it's hard to focus on it. But I will say, again, going back to my original statement, like it is nice that I don't feel like they're trying to like compact so much into one episode that it just becomes like discombobulated. They're doing a really good job. And the one thing about this show that I'll say that has over the other two shows is that this show is just fun. It's just really fun. And again, maybe having a fun show like this, it is good to have it in just 30-minute intervals. There's a reason why drama shows are an hour and comedy shows or sitcoms are 30 minutes long, right? Because it's just a quick fix is what it is of something funny and like whatever. So
yeah, for sure. I'm in the same boat as you. In one way, I'm like, oh, these are too short just because I want more. But in another way, I am glad that they're not longer because like you said, they'd really have to fuck up for me to be like, okay, well, this episode sucks. I didn't love the premiere, as we know, but I didn't think it was the strongest premiere. But I think this episode really cemented it for like, okay, now if I watch the two back to back, then I'm gonna be like, okay, I probably am gonna like it. Well, I'm sure we'll do a summary episode once we're done with the whole season, like we usually do, and I'll probably rewatch the whole thing right before we do the summary episode, and I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, like now I like the stuff I didn't like, or I feel less about it because I'm seeing it all at once and I get what they're doing. The Sir Arlen thing from this episode versus last episode is like a big part of that. Well, as we close out the episode, we just want to say thank you to our listeners for joining us for Dunk and Egg Tales. Woo! Manny and I will, of course, be back next week to cover the third episode of Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Meanwhile, for the most current news and updates about this and other Geek Saga podcast series, make sure to follow at a Geek Saga on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and or YouTube. And also, if you want to watch us live stream these episodes, you can consider joining our Patreon, supporting us by doing so at the $5 and up level to watch our live streams, which will be happening generally on Monday evenings, the day after the episodes have aired. Or if you join at the $3 and up level, you will get access to the video recordings of those on Tuesdays. And also you will still get early access to the audio only podcasts by Wednesdays, usually for the audio only, barring any like major issues on my end, because I have to do all the editing. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.